Okay, today I'm going to do an installation of NetBSD 6.15, which is the current version. I'm going to have it set up package source, and I'm going to have it built from source. If you're the kind of person that likes to try out different operating systems like I do, I could just basically do a run through what it's like and how to get a graphical desktop going if you want to try it out. It's a good system. You will need a pretty fast internet connection, but most at least open source type software products are, although things is a better word than product, will require an internet connection so you can download either precompiled packages or source. Just in case you're wondering like what my specs are for this. Just go over them quickly. So I have 4 gigs of RAM. It says a PS2 mouse, but I'm going to try the USB tablet. I've got 4 processors going here. Got 8 total on my computer. Don't know if I really want to up the video. Might as well. 1 monitor. I've got a hard drive, 100 gigabytes. NetBSD 6.15 AMD 64 CD that I downloaded from netbsd.org. Audio is I'm just using Pulse. Network I'm using a bridge adapter. I chose the Intel Pro server. USB 2.0 isn't shared, and don't have anything connected via serial port right now. So I'm just going to start this up, go through the installation process. It doesn't take that long. It doesn't look too fancy, but it doesn't really matter. What matters really at the end of the day is that you got package source in there and you can build stuff, and it works pretty reliably last time I checked. So just gonna see how it goes now. The last one I used was 6.14. So I just selected installation, and I'm going to pick my keyboard. I'm going to install it to a hard disk, and ask me, do you want to partition, create the BSD file system, load the distribution set, and configure stuff. I'm going to say yeah. It's got a VirtualBox hard disk, and I'm going to install it on there. I think I'll go with the full installation. Most of the time you can accept the geometry. I haven't really had geometry problems with NetBSD in years. A long time ago I did. It was like 1.6 instead of 6.1 or 1.5. I'm going to use the entire disk, and I want to use the BSD boot code. I guess I'll set the sizes of partitions and I'll accept it. What I'm doing here is I'm just saying use the whole thing. Just have one partition and one swap partition, and that's it. Well, in BSD they usually call them slices, so say that's okay. And a lot of the time in the Unix world, when you see something like this or it's already picked for you, I'm just going to keep that description. I'm going to go ahead and continue. The boot block section, I don't know what this means, but I'm just going to go with the BIOS console. Install from the CD, which is actually CD image, so I don't really have a physical CD in my drive. VirtualBox is able to use the disk image as if it were a CD. In the past, I've made the mistake of not really going on and configuring the system before I exit. It actually really is a good idea to do that. Configure the system before you exit. So once this is done, now it says this is really configuring, and so I'm going to configure the network. It'll auto detect the network card, and it's going to call it a WM0. So you might want to remember that. I'm going to auto select the media type. In my case, I'm not going to do DHCP auto configuration because I haven't really set my router up to be IPv6 yet. I'm just going to call this local domain. Call this localhost. And I got to pick an IPv6 number. Should look up which ones are available. Sorry, dropped you. Don't worry, it'll get more interesting in a second. Minute. I think I'll go for 07. Okay. Use Google's name server. No, I do not want IPv6, so everything's okay. And it's going to actually test to see whether the network interface comes up. No packet loss. We're good. Okay, is the network... Do I want the system to accept the settings? Yes, I do. Time zone. Wherever you happen to live. I don't happen to live in Los Angeles, but I'm in the same time zone. Root shell, I recommend using KSH. I'm not going to do the root password. I am going to do package source. So this will get the latest package source. It'll download it, unzip it, put everything in place, so you don't have to FTP for it. That's nice. That's a good thing. I don't know if they had this before, but if they didn't, it was a very good addition to have. Still don't know why it's trying to do IPv6 in some cases. Really don't like. It delays it sometimes, as you can see. Depending on how much speed you have on your network or internet, and how long it's going to take to download that. As far as I could tell, I think it's unzipping package source and putting it in place, and where it places it is in user package. When I was using package source in Haiku, that was one difference, that in some cases, without thinking about it, some of the make files, once in a while, ended up wanting to go to user package, basically. Okay, now what I'm going to do is actually wait till this is done, whatever it's trying to do. I'm actually going to reboot the computer, but actually right now I'm just going to I'm going to power it off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the disk. That's one difference between Haiku does that better. I'll say that much. Okay, start her up again. Basically, the username is root. I haven't used a password. Doesn't really matter. Word root, I'm in. Okay, so now what I need to do is cd to user pkg source. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to install KDE 3. That's in the meta packages. I happen to like KDE 3. I haven't customized my shell or anything like that. Obviously, I just finished the installation. So make install. And if everything works well, it'll just download and install it like it did before. Apparently, it's already downloaded its first thing. It's going to get the KDE libraries. It's a good kernel. I wouldn't. And it's got a lot of binary compatibility for other systems. Supposedly, there's actually a way you could run much older versions of Unix and run some legacy software in here. And I'm actually interested to do that. I've got a better idea of what you need to do now. Before I didn't really. Thought I would just stick in my old WordPerfect for Unix disks and everything would be fine, but we'll see how this goes. So we're downloading the KDE libraries. We're doing XML. Look how fast that is. So XML category manager's done. Now we're getting live tool. Now, in the old days, and it still may be true, you could actually install NetBSD from a floppy, well, if you have one. And then it will actually FTP down the kernel and things like that. Which is the speed is noticeably faster. Now, Haiku can't take 4 cores. I know that. Even with 2 cores, it's not gonna. Same amount of RAM. And at some point, you using a shell terminal, you're not gonna do much more. You're not really going to be able to use all the CPU power because it doesn't ask for all the CPU power. With internet speeds as fast as they are today, and with computers as fast as they are today, it almost takes the same amount of time to download a precompiled binary as it does to build it from source, at least with this tool set. I really wonder what's going on here. usually when it actually fetches something, it'll give me some kind of percentage or what. I hope that the Qt 3 tools aren't gone. It's not like KD3 is not like KD2. I'm going to see. What the hell is going on here? Now it looks like it's gonna download. Otherwise, I have to figure out where else I was gonna get it from, but that's pretty rare. So at the end of the day, if you can't get it from the original spot, NetBSD has a backup location where things go to, which is now actually the primary. Location, at least for this package. The thing about Haiku is it just isn't ready yet, and it's really hard to tell. The developers really tell what they need to work on unless they get some feedback, which is part of the reason why I was doing what I was doing. I think there really is an issue with shared memory. Haiku or the current something, don't know what to call it. It just doesn't seem to have a lot of power. So that's gonna keep building something. Haiku does have a lot of promise. The people who worked on it have worked on it hard, and it's worth trying and worth trying to use. But at the end of the day, it's just not going to build it, or the path to getting things built is just too narrow, too exact, and there's really nothing to really lead you down the right path until you figure out what's wrong. It makes it too formidable for most people to actually try unless they're just utterly determined, to have a lot of time in their hands, and so although I was pretty much utterly determined, I don't think I'm going to have enough time in my hands to actually go back. So if you're doing something new, you got to figure out the right exact path to go, and you have all these dependencies, and it's just if you don't do the right thing way back the bottom of the tree, it's going to affect something at the top. It's just mean, this really is pretty impressive. And I haven't had to use anything I usually use in the other that I had to use in Haiku, you know. Build link transform to make sure that the math library gets taken out of the make files, or don't have to worry about whether library ping's gonna not have enough memory. Stuff like that. It's already starting to build some of the X11 libraries. God. If things went this fast in Haiku, it would be a completely different thing. It wouldn't take a month to build. And it's not just because of the stoppages and the need to patch things. At the end of the day, you know, for stuff to compile, it has to be some kind of link between the code and the system that the code's trying to compile in. Oh, look at that. I mean, I've never seen it go that fast. I haven't seen it go that fast in 6 months. Put it that way. This is a dream. If things went this well in Haiku, it'd be a dream. This part might take a little while. The only real question as this goes with Haiku is, you know, are people gonna... It's obvious that... Well, let's put it this way. I'm gonna play some of the same games. Of course, you're going to say, well, they've been patched by the NetBSD people, so of course they run good, right? Well, what was so puzzling about is Haiku has I'm using the headers to get it to compile. I'm linking with libraries that it needs to link with, and I'm using the same linker that ships with Haiku. The code shouldn't compile unless it's POSIX code or it's been modified to be POSIX code, one would think, But what became very clear is that there's actually, it doesn't really work that way. I think a lot of the applications that are POSIX applications, if we wanted to work in Haiku well, we actually have to make further modifications to them, such as was the case with library PNG. Because of just the kind of limitations that the system has right now, given it isn't fully matured yet. You know, it's still alpha. The problem is that there doesn't seem to be much indication that things like shared memory are being worked on. Things like better threading is being worked on. And there really doesn't seem to be any chance to allow, and just the pathing is just so narrow. If I had to do, and then I thought about it, and I go, well, there's, package source will embed the RPath inside. I don't even know if that's a GCC setting. It's going to do that always because of Haiku setting, or what. Maybe I'll do a run elf when I'm done here. A read elf, and see if they have RPath embedded in it, and then I'll know. And I wonder, well, why does it embed sometimes and not the other time? Anyway, it's basically until I would know that it's always going to embed the RPath. I don't even know what conditions cause that or disallow that on a general sense. I don't know if, there's the one setting you can do, so it always does the RPath. I don't know what that would be. But if I did, and I knew every single time it built, it was going to use the RPath, and it also was not going to link to anything that Haiku provided, if I had already built it with NetBSD, and if I knew that the linker would actually embed the symbols I needed, and that once built, that the packages would actually have an environment available to it in which, when it runs, it would run smoothly and have a reasonable amount of mouse integration. As hard as Caliber worked on getting as much done as he did, including some GTK2 apps that includes GIMP, he was somehow able to either work around the apparent fact that shared memory isn't supported in Haiku, or he built that in BOS. Of course, eventually it's not going to work. You can't even install BOS in VirtualBox. Otherwise, I'd have an installation of it. You got to build stuff on an older machine. The BOS Max kept BOS alive for a long time. And of course, KD3 doesn't look like Haiku or BOS or anything like that. It isn't going to have the BOS or Haiku native API, but this is the only reason why I was even trying to build POSIX stuff was there weren't really any apps available that were built using the B/Haiku API anyway. So the only thing that was left to get applications built is in the POSIX area. Well, there's no difference between this and Haiku. under that circumstance. But at least right now, the state the Haikyuu's in, it won't, unless there's some secret that no one seems to be able to figure out or wants to talk about in public. Mesa just won't build right with the symbols in it inside Haikyuu as it is today. At least with the latest nightlies. I didn't try the last alpha that was released. But that's just the nature of an operating system that is alpha, that needs a lot more work, many more years of work. Probably a lot of kernel work, probably a lot of memory work and fine-tuning, all that stuff. But it's probably, even if it worked this fast, if I knew that to use NetBSD, I would have to put all my binaries in a certain place, otherwise it wouldn't build, I probably wouldn't be so thrilled about it as much anymore. If I knew I would never get write access to part of the system, I would not be so thrilled about it. And I haven't even thought about the implication of that for people that are trying to build apps using the native Haikyuu API, you know? There probably is going to be reasons why people are going to want pre-packaged creation to have write access to the system. This is taking, I mean, it's moving fast, but Qt is a big it's a huge package. Let's see how. So basically, there is some time to wait. I mean, the speed of this computer. Don't know how many gigahertz this is. This computer is not brand new. It's, again, I'm only giving it 4 out of its 8 cores, or 7 cores, or whatever the hell it has. .4 gigahertz. So, you know, you could probably buy a computer that's just as good, if not better now, for fairly cheap. VirtualBox is free. NetBSD doesn't cost you anything, and you can try it out. And you can try it on any operating system that you have as the host. It's not going to make a difference. That's the thing, it's just Haikyuu isn't ready, so. But at least there are people who have been interested enough into trying to use it that, you know, it gets. We're going to have a lot of patches ready, no matter what tool system you decide to use. It's just the restrictions placed on the system make any developer's eyes water. Roll is a better word. something built. I don't know what it is, but now we're going to get Perl. After Perl, I'm sure Python will follow. Now, what was going on with Perl? I guess I just do a little. As the packages scroll on by, I guess I could remember what I've experienced in Haiku. So with Haiku, when Perl would build, it would install, but it wouldn't be able to find. First of all, at least so I was told, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, you can't even build a Perl with threads. And a lot in Haiku, and a lot of the time, Perl, go look at the test results for Perl and Haiku, and you can see it's not really passing a lot of the tests. But when it was done, it wouldn't be able to find its own Perl library. And this isn't a system that seemed to want to embed paths into. So I don't know where the origin of the R path that was being embedded in the Perl library, was derived, but it ended up embedding an incorrect R path for the library. So the only way to actually get Perl to work was to copy, that I knew of, the Perl library into the package source library directory. I mean, it would find it in that case. Otherwise, obviously there's some kind of setting you would have to do to get it to build and embed the R path that you wanted. I just never figured out what that was. Just basically to, look for the library, the Perl library, where the system wanted it to be. There was some recent conversation in some forum, people that they're called Perl porters, and they did discuss some issue that was pretty much closely related. I mean, they mentioned the Haiku-ish header, they mentioned the location of the library not being found. Someone had submitted a patch, and I don't know what version of Perl that was, but it's probably going to be a higher version than 520, because I don't think that patch was, that's like a month ago they were talking about that. So going through the Perl thing, then Python follows. And now it seems to have slowed down. It still seems to be going a little bit faster than I would see in Haiku, but it seems to have slowed down a little bit here. Now that's faster than anything I've ever seen. Looks like it's going to install. Now, package source was able to, put Perl not in user package library, but some other location. at Lua, I guess. All the basic stuff here. We're getting arts. Audio file. I don't remember getting these things. Because I really didn't go down the KDE route. I never would have been able to got there myself. I mean, Calibre was able to do it, but I never got a good patch KDE set ever. KDE3, KDE Qt4 libraries, that was the end of that. I just had no chance to do anything that was KDE related. And I even had other people had started. There were over 100 patches that were in total, but that includes the net. There's like maybe 40 patches for actually a port over to. I don't know what Calibre did to get it to create the KDE applications that he actually created. It's the best thing anybody could probably do is they want to build stuff in Haiku. Is to study the patches that are up at the Penguin Cape project. Even now, Haiku Porter doesn't have a patch set for library PNG, and that would do a heck of a lot. To be cut off from all the PNG based apps and games and things like that is not a position that I believe that Haiku wants to be in. The only real time consuming thing is when it just doesn't want to connect. Can't find the thing, just sits there. I wish the default package fetch timeout was 30 seconds, which is the way I had it in Haiku. Now we're going to get some. So, although you don't start with a graphical desktop, if you can't do much anyway, except surf the net, then does it really matter if you have to wait, however long this is to, Okay, I'm going to stop here and we'll do part 2.